so thanks for coming. Okay, today we're going to be talking to the founders of the self-taught community of practice systematic reviews. I've got that the wrong way around, but it's the SR self-taught community of practice group, which is on the Discord platform. All links that we talk about will be in the abstract blurb, so please feel free to go to them at the end. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background as to how the group came about, and then everyone can introduce themselves and we'll get on with the podcast. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Brilliant. So the idea came about from a chat in the SR Conversations webinar, is that right?
It is.
It is. So what happens is the SR Conversations are what are they?
A series of webinars.
It's a series of webinars. Oh my god. Somebody else wants to do it. Okay. So a bit of history. Right, give me 5 seconds so we can edit that bit out. Okay. So a bit of history. So the COP was born out of the SR Conversations, and it was a chat between you three guys. Is that right?
It is. Very much so,
yes, yeah. So just to explain what the SR Conversations are, for those who don't know, it's a series of webinars which are hosted by Lancaster Uni here, the library. The presenters are from the information professional sector, and they share their knowledge and their experience with the information community, the information professional community, worldwide. It's worldwide. These are online and they are recorded and they're shared on YouTube. So it was during one of these sessions that the practice came about. So would everyone like to introduce themselves?
I'll happily start. I'm Erin Bloxsidge and I'm a faculty librarian at the University of Surrey.
And I'm Giada, and I am an information specialist at the Aston University in Birmingham.
And I'm Kathryn Devine, and I am academic liaison librarian at the University of Worcester.
Brilliant. And I'm Louise Spearman from Lancaster University. So all four of us are involved in forming the community of practice. I host the SR Conversations and saw the chat between these guys and reached out to them after, and the rest is history, and we're going to talk about that as we go along. But first of all, we're going to talk about a little bit about what our daily role is. So, what's our bread and butter? So, do you want to expand?
Oh yeah, at my institution, the faculty librarian is really a role that covers a lot of different hats. So we are communication and liaison with the schools and our faculty. We are also one-to-one support for staff and researchers within our faculty as well. We do a lot of work with learning and teaching at the university to make sure that the library is well represented at student boards. And we also function as advocates for open research practices that are based in the library, as well as support for things like systematic reviews.
Brilliant. And are you along the same lines or different or?
Yeah, very similar in my case. I mean, for me, I support schools of psychology and sport and exercise science, so that's mainly where my systematic review stuff has come from, is from psychology, but it's increasing across the whole university. But day to day, yeah, I'm an academic liaison, so it's teaching, one-to-one support, like advocacy, like Erin says, really very similar.
Yeah, very similar for me as well. So there's a lot of liaison with the College of Health and Life Sciences in my case. There is a lot of resource provision, so anything to do with ebooks, databases. I would be the link between the library and the faculty, and then of course a lot of teaching both in embedded sessions and one-to-ones, and I support undergraduate, postgraduate students and researchers, and a little bit of CPD for staff. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's where my support for systematic review came from the need of students and researchers in Health and Life Sciences College.
So the forum, the community of practice, it came about because you've kind of mentioned systematic reviews a couple of times now, and it came about because there's not a real training opportunity. Is that right? Do you want to expand on that a little bit? How your training has come about? Are you self-taught yourselves? That kind of thing.
I certainly am. I mean, for me, it started with an assignment that our second year undergraduates do in psychology, which is a sort of form of systematic review. Not a full-scale one, but it's an assignment that they do. And I didn't know what they were, and I had to go away and find out. And there was not many people to ask who knew much more about it. So yes, it always felt like working a little bit blind with it and thinking, well, where can I actually go to find out more, and not finding anywhere.
Yeah, everyone got. I think you have got a bit more formal training, haven't you, Erin?
I was really fortunate. When I stepped into my role at Surrey, it was really evident from the first couple of weeks that there was a lot of demand for more information around systematic practices, and not just systematic reviews, but all different kinds of evidence synthesis. And that was from taught programs at undergraduate level all the way through to staff researchers. So when I sort of stepped in, I was seeing a lot of PhD candidates in one-to-ones who were all trying to get to grips with the absolute basics, but not really understanding what the process looked like. So one of the things that I asked for was funding to complete the Medical Library Association's systematic review services specialization kind of accreditation, which was absolutely instrumental in me being able to dive straight in and sort of really start helping PhDs and researchers at a more intensive level. My role is very much advisory and guidance, so at the moment I don't embed into review projects, but that additional training really did help me encourage best practice and signpost to the best resources, whether students were completing something at a slightly smaller level but trying to adopt those practices, or whether they were actually doing grant-funded projects.
Yeah, what about you, Giada?
I didn't have any official or formal training. So when I got into this role, I started really as an assistant, and there was another information specialist for health subjects. And she gave me a good introduction to systematic reviews and the general methodology. But then really I had to take that information, do a lot more of self-teaching and digging, and especially when it comes to searching. So I had a general idea what systematic reviews were, but yeah, I would say 80% is self-teaching, yeah.
Yeah, and it seems to be evident from reading messages on the platform that there's a lot of people feeling the same way. You've got over 200 members already, and it was launched in January. What are you finding the most common questions? Is there a most common question? What kind of support are you finding in there?
I think there's quite a range, actually.
Really? Yeah.
Quite a broad range. But I feel like comparing it perhaps to some of the other Discord areas or other conversations, it's feeling comfortable to ask those introductory questions, and I think that's what we hoped we would get from this, is that, I think with the conversation that we were having during the SR Conversations chat, it was pitched quite high, which was brilliant, but for someone like me, I was sitting there thinking, can you just take a step back for a minute? And there wasn't the scope for that in that particular forum at that time, which is fair enough. And what we hoped was that you could have that step back where you could say, okay, this is a safe space. Those questions you feel like, I'm an information professional, I'm supposed to know this. Well, how would you if nobody has ever told you, or there's nowhere easy to kind of find it out? And so that's what we wanted. So we're getting quite a lot of nice sense checking of people's searches, recommending of tools that people can use. So information sharing as well as actual support questions, which I think is really nice. It keeps it ticking over as well.
There's definitely a building it in very much in the name, in the community of practice, and that a lot of us at our institutions are the only person who tends to provide advice or support within that kind of systematic review evidence synthesis area. And some of us are within medical subjects, which means that we have a very kind of specific set of things that we're dealing with. But there are a lot of people at my institution and others as well where the use of systematic reviews is really expanding outside of the kind of medicine and health areas. And applying those things in those other disciplines can be a bit tricky when you're not following the exact standards. So it's really nice to see that there is genuinely kind of a sense of community where people can come in and they don't feel like they are already on the back foot, and they can ask, I mean, as Kathryn has said, that absolute basic question and really be like, okay, I'm sorry, this is a stupid question, but, and the thing is, they're never stupid questions. They're never silly questions. And that's one of the things we really try to drive home, is that everyone starts from somewhere, and this is a new methodology for loads of people who might be the only person at their institution who's really trying to kind of swat up on that and get more up to speed. So having other colleagues in your virtual office that you can just ping a question to without feeling like you're sending an email into the void was really something that we wanted to foster when we created the group.
So what made you choose Discord? I know I was involved in all this, but I'm asking you guys, why did we get to Discord? Why did we not use Teams, for example?
I think it was the difficulty of hosting when you've got specific institutions with each with their specific setup for Teams, and who then administers it. What happens if someone leaves their post? What happens if the university that you work for pulls Teams in favour of something else? There's a whole load of sort of technical issues around it that's difficult. It's difficult to share, it's difficult to make it future-proof. Whereas Discord is open, it's free of charge, so everybody can get onto it. And also we can have, I'm the server owner, but you guys are all admins. It would be very easy for me to transfer that ownership, have more admins. There is opportunity for kind of screening what gets posted. We haven't needed to use it, but if we needed to, we could. And there is also the option to host live events on there as well. So as we develop it, that's always in the background, that we could host a live chat or event if we felt like we wanted to.
Yeah. Ooh, future plans. So you alluded then to it not being monitored. Okay, so as you said, we're all admins, but actually we don't monitor it. And that was a conscious decision, wasn't it? We decided that we would prefer and encourage peer-to-peer support. Do you feel that's working?
I definitely think so. I definitely think it's a very relaxed virtual environment. As Erin said earlier, it's like just asking a question to the person sitting next to you, to the person in the office. It's just a virtual, international now, not just national office. And me personally, I never hesitate asking a question, which in the past with other mailing lists maybe, or other environments or other webinars, I was also a bit scared. Should I ask this? What if it's so basic that everyone's going to think, really, you should know this? Whereas never have that hesitation on Discord. And also going back to the why we chose Discord, I think it's very user-friendly. I'm not the best when it comes to using a new platform and getting used to a new platform. Whereas as soon as I landed on Discord, I was like, oh, okay, this is the channel, this is my profile. I found it very easy, and I hope that's what other people experience as well.
I definitely echo that, because I set it up, and I don't always find things very intuitive, but I sort of, okay, I need to set this server up, how do I do it? And it took me like 5 minutes because it was that straightforward to do. So I'm like, anyway, if I can set this up properly, anyone can use it.
You sent us all a user-friendly video as well.
Yes,
remember?
yeah. I do.
Yeah. So so that's great. And I'm just going to move on just slightly because I have got some questions. So what is the common misunderstanding about your role? What do people think you do, but actually you do?
What isn't a misunderstanding about my role?
That is exactly the point. Does anyone really know, who isn't in the information sector, what a librarian actually does? Because roles can be so varied across different kinds of teams within the library. Like, our roles are slightly different because of the different structures at our institutions. I mean, I think people don't know the scope and the breadth of what we can do, really. And that's part of our advocacy work and our roles, is to make sure people know that even if we aren't the exact expert in something, we can absolutely signpost to things or point them towards the right team or connect them with the right colleague who can help them.
Students at my institution often think that I can help them with academic writing. And I can assure you, I'm really not the person to ask about academic writing or generally referencing as well. But there's the Learning Development Centre, which is a team also based in the library, who are just next door to my office. So it's very easy to get confused. I do understand that. But I also understand how there is overlap between my role and my expertise and their expertise. So often we do end up collaborating on a session to support an assessment, for example. But yeah, that's common misunderstanding. Can you help me with essay writing? No, sorry. I can help you find the literature there.
Yeah, I have that. We all have that, I think, as well at Worcester, the idea that we can do the academic writing stuff as well. And I think because we do a lot of referencing stuff, that they do come together. So often the problem students have with referencing stems from their lack of confidence with the academic writing. So they are so linked together. So yeah, we're the same. We put them towards the Centre for Academic English and Skills. They put the students towards us for the searching and the referencing and that kind of thing. I think misunderstandings from sort of academic staff, they're actually quite nice misunderstandings. They almost don't want to ask you to do more things than they think you should. So actually they're very supportive and kind. But we're like, I can do all of this and just ask me. I always say to them, I will say no if I can't do it. So just ask me. And if I can't do it, I'll tell you why. And if there's someone else that can, I will put you in touch with them. So, just ask the question. I think they just don't know how much we can do until they have that conversation.
I think that's quite interesting, and it leads on to my next question, which is, what is the biggest challenge you're facing right now in your role? So, over to you.
I think demand is a big one. Just the complexity of the student body in terms of all the things that they bring with them in terms of, everything, sort of different backgrounds, lots of international students, mental health related stuff. I mean, it's much more than just academic things, that we find ourselves hearing about or knowing about, and some students have very complex situations going on. And I think, everyone's trying to do more with less all of the time at the moment, I think.
And I think also the type of students I'm meeting now is so much different from the traditional BSc typical university student, if there is such a thing. So there could be students who already work a lot, who are already professionals, and who might need to see me at times where they're not the typical 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, or they have a lot of other commitments and they benefit much more from one-to-one support. But at the same time, I don't have the capacity to guarantee that one-to-one support to everyone, because there's only one of me. Just student needs it is a challenge, because I wish I could meet all the needs, but
Yeah, we tend to go in, don't we, and do these embedded sessions, and we think seeing 300 is better than seeing 300 one-to-ones, which it is, obviously, time-wise. And we would love to see 300 one-to-ones. We'd love to give everyone that. But when we do the embedded sessions, they are as personalised, mine are as personalised as possible, and as bespoke as possible. But yeah, it's a struggle to try and reach everyone's level in that kind of capacity, which is why then we end up with those one-to-ones. And then you've got the struggle with capacity of the one-to-ones, isn't it? And reaching them all.
And you see that variety in everything from your undergraduates all the way through to your sort of PhD candidates and researchers. If people have just come from clinical practice or just come back from time away in industry, or if they've changed careers, like their exposure to the academic environment and the tools that we use is often a really big hurdle for them. And helping people get over some digital literacy kind of needs that they have to have met in order to then be able to do the information literacy work that we're trying to help them with, especially when it's something as complex as an evidence synthesis, a systematic review, a scoping review. I find I end up doing a lot of the technical side of things when I don't expect that that's the question that they have. And then once they're able to get over that hurdle, then actually that feeds into the other more sort of methodological aspects of how do you build a search, how do you make sure that you're being comprehensive, all of the more like advanced skills, the really meaty things that we always want to get into with students, but we may not always have the time or the need for the particular thing that they're working on.
And those can be quite hard questions to ask for them, can't they, as well? If they've come from, they're very experienced clinicians, they're highly, experienced professionals.
Absolutely.
And they've come from that where they're the expert, and then they're coming to come to the library to say, I'm in this situation, I'm no longer the expert. And it's almost like starting to, probably how we feel when we ask those questions in the, in the systematic review conversations chat. It's that same feeling, isn't it, of I'm suddenly a beginner in something again, when before I was, I was at the top of my game.
It's trying to reach everyone's level, isn't it? Everyone's needs and capacity, because when we as a group, us four as a group, try and get Teams between us, a Teams appointment between us. It is so difficult, and we have to make them weeks in advance because of how busy the role is. And and I think that's a real challenge as well, the actual capacity. And we're filling everyone else's needs, the students' needs, and then looking to learn as we're working as well. So for me, I think that, that's a big challenge, trying to meet my own needs, my own learning needs, as well as students and academics' learning needs. I think it's a big challenge for me. Okay, so what's the most important lesson that you've learned in your career so far? It's a toughie.
Oh, meaty questions.
I did have a good think about this one because it's quite a difficult one, isn't it? And I think it sort of alludes back to what I was saying about the variety of students, and I think for me it's looking beyond the question that they actually ask you, because that's often not what's causing their concern or their worry. And I'm not saying we can be counsellors or any of this stuff in a really in-depth way, but they say, I'm getting my referencing wrong or something, and it's actually, there's lots of other things going on in the background, and it's kind of unpicking that and just having that, not thinking, oh no, another referencing question, never thinking that, and just thinking about sort of that, it's a bit cliched, isn't it, being kind to them, but giving them the opportunity to tell you what's happening. I think that's what I've tried to learn, is just not just go, oh, they just can't do Harvard or whatever, but actually thinking, why are they struggling? What's the tool that they might need? Actually, do they need to see one of the academics for something else? Do they really need to be seeing counselling? Do they need to be going to academic English because actually the reason they can't do the referencing is because they can't do the writing? So I think it's just, never assuming that you know what their problem is.
Mine is very much along the same lines, and it's really approaching situations with curiosity and trying to really withhold judgment or assumption, because every situation is different. And if I can take that step back and pause and approach with curiosity, I tend to have a better view of what's actually happening. And then whatever it is, whether it's student support, whether it's a resolving an issue for an academic, having that space and taking the time as well. Often I think we feel really compelled to resolve things really quickly because we want to help. We're in a profession where helping is very much core of what we do, and being able to step back and take that pause and interrogate is a hard-won lesson. I think we all probably go through this at some stage in our career, but that's definitely the most important thing I'm trying to make sure I implement every day when I'm at my desk.
I agree with that, especially try to remember to be compassionate and not, as you said, not assume anything. So sometimes the students might book a one-to-one appointment with me very close to the deadline. And in the past, my first thought was, why did you book it so late? But actually, with some experience, you learn that the student is juggling 3 other deadlines and part-time job and childcare, and it's actually good that you found the time to book the appointment, because I don't think I would have been able to. I'm not that organised. So, and trying to strike a balance between helping all the people that you want to help, but also keeping it realistic in terms of your workload. I'm not saying that I've learned to do that, but it's definitely an ongoing process.
You're learning.
Learning, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I'd say mine is not to be perfect, because I'm not, and I make mistakes, and at first I couldn't own them, but now I can own them, and I've learned to own them, and I've learned to learn from them mistakes. So yes, mine's not to be perfect, and not to think I'm perfect, although I am. Okay, so a nice and an easier question for you guys. I personally work better in the morning. My brain's better in the morning. I feel more energised after sleep, after I've been to the gym. So I work better in the morning. By 3-4 o'clock I am flagging. When is the best day? When is the best time of day for you guys?
I'm team morning. I think 10, half 10. So after plenty of coffee, but before I'm already thinking about lunch. I think that's the right time. That's the right time. I get a lot done in the 10, 11, but even half 9 until 11, I am definitely the most productive. I can do probably 3 times as much as I can do at 2, 3, 4 in the afternoon. It's like my brain shuts down after a while.
So do you save your, like, most important jobs for that time?
Yes.
Do you
Yeah.
work? Yeah.
For example, if I need to test the search strategy, something that requires a lot of attention to detail, a lot of patience, a lot of trial and error, is definitely a 10 o'clock job. A 4 o'clock job would be, for example, did I book my 1 o'clock lunch so nobody can book a one-to-one meeting? That's a 4 o'clock task.
Have I remembered to eat?
Exactly, that's a 4 o'clock task.
Did I book the podcast studio? That's kind of my 4 o'clock.
Yeah.
I will say I am also team morning, and I actually can do well quite early in the morning. So if I've had a good night's sleep and a coffee, I can log in at 7 and I can blast through several hours of work, pop on some tunes on focus music on like Brain FM, other focus music apps are available, and I will plow through work. Whereas if I fall into my inbox first thing when I log in the morning, all of that ability to charge through kind of falls by the wayside. So I'm trying to put good habits in and make sure that if I do need to debug is not the right word. If I need to test a search strategy or check why something isn't behaving the way I expect, it's absolutely between the hours of 7 and 11, because beyond that, it's less complex tasks are better.
Yeah, well, I agree. See, so it's 3 team mornings.
Yeah, I'm going to buck the trend. I'm a bit of a night owl. So what I might do is leave work and then late in the night we'll pick up something and work on it. Or maybe early evening if there's football on and I can have the commentary in the background. I quite like that constant hum of a crowd while I'm doing something and I can blast through. I think also it's that if I'm doing emails you don't tend to get a response at that time of day either, so you can send a load of stuff out and know that it won't come back at you for a little while.
But you just get them all in the morning.
Yeah. Oh, it swings around about, doesn't it?
So are you a football fan, Kathryn?
I am a football fan, yes. I'm an Arsenal fan, and Worcester City, of course.
Are you watching the Euros?
I am watching the Euros, yes, yeah, definitely. I'll be watching England on Saturday.
I just hear lots of shouting at the TV, so that's as good as my football supporting goes. Okay, so what's one lesson in your job that has taught you that you think everyone should know about in life? So let me just repeat that. What's one lesson your job has taught you that you think everyone should learn at some point in their life?
Ask questions. Don't be scared of asking questions. I think that can be applied to anything and anyone and everywhere. Just ask questions. What's the worst that can happen? They get slightly annoyed at you because you're asking too many questions, but at least you're getting some answers. So yeah, definitely ask questions. Even asking questions about things that maybe go a bit beyond your job or beyond your interest or beyond, because a little bit more knowledge and a little bit more answers, I think it's better than less or fewer. So I might have a reputation in my department for that one, that asks questions, but hey, no regrets.
But if you don't ask the questions, you don't know the answers, do you?
Exactly. No, and I find it much easier to ask a question and having somebody explain it to me than me looking for a long time for the answer. And I don't know, I just retain the information much better that way. So yeah, works for me.
What about you guys?
I think for me it's the importance of having a supportive team around you and collaboration, and it kind of goes on with the asking questions, but asking them for help. I'm not good at doing that. I like to think I can do it all by myself, can get it all done, and it might be a weakness to ask for that support, but actually it's so important. I don't think you could do our role in isolation. You would go over the edge very quickly, I think. And certainly I think at Worcester we've got an amazing team, so never have any problems on that front. I think any workplace, if you can try and function as a team and look out for each other, I think it can make everything, whatever else is going on, it just makes it all so much better and so much easier. And you look forward to going to work instead of dreading it. And I've had the dread jobs, so I know the difference.
What about you, Erin?
I'd say mine is a bit cliche, but a little bit along the lines of Giada's, is that it is never too late to learn a new skill and to pick something that is really far outside your comfort zone. When we were in the middle of the pandemic, I decided, I just got a bee in my bonnet and I was like, right, I'm going to learn front-end web development. And I took a couple classes, and it was a really nice way to kind of stretch and grow in something that was outside of the work that I was doing at that time, but I could still apply some of it within the work environment. And the irony being is that learning how to debug my own code and how to learn these different languages really then came back into the front when I started having to learn the really in-depth intricacies of advanced searching and systematic reviews. And I went, oh, that's why that's not working, because I've written the code wrong in that search string. And so even though at the time it felt really disconnected from the work that I was doing, I found that it came completely back around. And even though I'm not actually using those specific skills, the kind of core underlying things that I learned through that process are helping me in my everyday work life. So I'm looking forward to, particularly around artificial intelligence, sort of as things develop and as all libraries are looking about how these new technologies are being incorporated into the tools that we use every day. There will be some really cool things to learn and to develop with, and to just not be afraid and to try the thing that seems weird and hard, and sometimes it's actually not as bad as you think it's going to be. It's actually fun.
I'm going to just echo that last bit. So, when I was in the gym, it said if it doesn't challenge you, it doesn't change you. And I agree with that. I think be brave, try it. What's the worst can happen? Well, a lot of things can happen, I suppose. But, try it. Don't be afraid to try it. It might not work, but what do you learn from that? And I suppose I'm going back to, what did I learn earlier on in the conversation? It's challenge yourself. Just take yourself out of that comfort zone, just a little bit. Just step your toe over the line and see where it gets you. So that's what I think I would advise people to take, just to be brave. Be brave. So our last question is slightly off-piste. It's slightly off-piste. So if we weren't in the profession that we're in, what occupation would you choose? What would you like? What would you have liked to have been when you was younger, or when you retire, or, whatever?
I think for me it would be something involving either horses or dogs, or both. I love dogs. I think some sort of dog walking or grooming, or kind of doggy daycare or something like that. I have done it. I had sort of 10 years in accounting and finance before I became a librarian, so I have tried another career. I'm much more suited to my current one. But yes, something dog or horse related, I think.
I like this question. I like the answers.
I kind of have two answers. So one is, what did you want to do as a child? And it would have been a vet. So yes, dog, kittens. Yeah. But realistically, before this job, I was teaching Italian. So I would probably go back to teach Italian if I had to change job. Yeah, I really enjoyed it, and still the element of teaching that I've managed to retain in this job is probably my favourite part. Whereas group or one-to-one teaching, I love it. So yeah, I will probably go back to that.
What about you, Erin?
I have no doubt that at some point in my life I will make use of my reputation as a serial hobbyist. I am absolutely the person who wants to do any and every form of arts and crafts that exists. So I will end up being the person who teaches ceramics, and then also like willow basket weaving, and then also knitting, and then also a wee bit of something else on the side. And I really love getting my hands into creative activities, but I remember as a kid not being convinced that I wasn't artistic because I didn't feel like I was good at the fine arts aspect of art. But I had a really brilliant art teacher in primary school who really encouraged us to step outside of the well, if you can't draw a horse that looks like a horse, then you're not artistic. And I've carried that with me into my adult life. So even though I have loads of hobbies at home that are very much in that creative sense, I'm very much a prolific knitter, and I've just started folk art painting. That's the newest one. Who knows how long that will last, but I will put them all to good use at some point later in my life.
You may need to explain what folk art painting is off after the podcast, because I'm quite interested.
I will have photos.
Because I'm a serial hobbyist, but never actually finish anything.
It's fine, you don't have to finish anything.
I start everything like, oh, I start crocheting, I can teach myself to crochet, and then never finish.
It's the learning process that is the joy.
Do you think?
I absolutely do think. I absolutely do think.
I just think, I've not found the hobby. It's a bit like reading a book. It's a bit like reading a book. People go, oh, I don't like reading. And I just think, you've not found the right book. And that, going right back to being a librarian, and that's my foundations, that's my core. And it's a bit like that with the hobby. I don't think I've found my hobby. So I start doing the crocheting or stamp collecting or whatever it is, but I never finish because I just think it doesn't hold my interest for long enough.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Okay. Thanks. So that's it. Thank you very much. It's been great chatting to you. I know we chat quite a lot anyway, but it's great that the community can learn a little bit more about you guys as the founders. You are on a panel discussion tomorrow in a conference, and that's why you're up here in sunny Lancaster. So thank you very much, and that's it.
Thank you for having us.